We have a couple of people joining us from Santiago, Chile. Welcome. We have another two from the United
Chile.
States, in California. We have one in London. Welcome. And a couple of people new joiners, like first time attending a Service Rocket webinar. Welcome. We're very excited to have you, and we look forward to share a little bit of what we do regarding remote onboarding with our Rocketeers, because that's how we call our employees, and we hope you learn some knowledge, some tricks that has been very valuable for us that help us to deliver a great experience. And we're going to start. So welcome again. This is a webinar called How to Effectively Onboard Remote Employees in the Future of Work, brought to you by Service Rocket. And today, the agenda that we have is only 3 points that we're going to cover in the next amazing 3 hours that we're going to spend here. It's not 3 hours, I'm joking, it's 45 minutes. And topic number one, why onboarding employees the right way to matter. This has been a very trendy topic, since the last couple of years, right? And topic number two, guidelines and best practices in designing effective remote and hybrid onboarding. And to close, explore the ways that workplace from Meta can centralize and amplify your onboarding efforts and experience. So, and here next to me, well, before I jump into the presentations, let me give an introduction about what Service Rocket is for those who join us for the first time, and for those who already joined before. It's not your first time attending, just a little reminder. Service Rocket is a leading tech-enabled services company. We specialize in software adoption, and we have been in the market for over 20 years. We try to maximize software adoption and return the investments on the technology that the company adopts. And our mojo or our brand promise is to become the most reliable partner in the acceleration of your growth. So there's a little bit about us. We've been in the market, as I said, for 20 years. We're a global company. We have 8 locations across the world, from the US to Bengaluru, India, Sydney, Australia, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, Santiago, Chile, Toronto, Canada, London, and Singapore as well. So, and we have some Rocketeers also in Boston, and we keep on growing. And counting. So if you ever see these t-shirts somewhere close to your office or to your neighborhood, that you know is a Rocketeer.
Rocketeer sign.
And we'll also talk about a little bit of Workplace. Workplace is a platform that Service Rocket, we adopted in 2017, a little over 5 years ago. And even though today we're going to talk about onboarding remote onboarding, sorry. Workplace has been a key tool on the growth for Service Rocket. And if you're not a Workplace user and this is new, this is totally new for you, there's a lot of things that you can empower through a tool like Workplace in terms of communication to employees, engagement, and deliver a message, keep everybody across your organization in the loop of what's happening. Not only regarding the business part of your company, but also culture, building teams, community, and everything. So it's a very, very strong tool that we use. And because, as you said, because the closer people are, the better work becomes. So it worth the effort to take a look at it. And today, oh, sorry, I jumped. There we are. Brief introduction of who's talking to you today. I'll start with myself. My name is Rodrigo Luna. I'm a content design manager here at Service Rocket. And 3 areas of expertise or passion about me is agile working, culture and team building, and brand awareness. And with me today is our very own Sam Astorga, and I'll let her do her introduction because I have taken over the screen for over 5 minutes now. So Sam, welcome.
Well, that was the best introduction that I could ever ask for, the young Sam Astorga. So thank you for that. Keep that in mind, people. So I'm the senior HR manager at Service Rocket. And as you heard before, I'm from Mexico, but I'm living in Chile for almost 4 years now, in working at Service Rocket for almost the same time. So I'm sharing this because Rodrigo Luna was also in Chile before moving to the UK, and we have been through a lot with onboarding, on-site onboarding, remote onboarding, also bringing on people from all the locations that we already spoke about. So it has been a really fun ride, but we have a lot to share. And basically what we are looking here is, to share this with you and also become a conversation. And, I've been working in HR my whole life. So my areas of expertise are, onboarding, in this case for Rocketeers all over, also employee experience, employer branding and engagement. I've been in talent acquisition also for several years, and career development. So yeah, this is something that we work together with the marketing team.
Exactly. And well, if you want an example of what remote onboarding means for Service Rocket, you have Sam in Chile. She comes from Mexico. She's running our people team from our office in Santiago, but taking that Rocketeer experience or employee experience across the borders from Chile. And myself, I'm from El Salvador. I'm based in London. I was based in Santiago a couple of years ago. And I also work in the previous version of onboarding, right? And also in this new version of remote. So I've been involved in Service Rocket in on-site onboarding and also remote onboarding as well. And okay, let's jump into the meat, right?
Let's roll.
Yeah, all yours.
So yeah, just to jump into the conversation. We wanted to start by asking why onboarding employees the right way matters. And, for this, jumping into the statistics that we have, I wanted to ask Luna, because again, he has been going through a lot, moving on from places to places. So you had the experience to create and, to come up with an on-site onboarding, like before pandemic, and also, I don't know, 6-7 years ago in the Chile office. Now COVID came. Also at the same time, the team grows twice now. No, three times now. Yeah. So we needed to we needed to come back with a remote onboarding for everyone, and not only for Chile, because we are scaling as a company, so for all the locations. So before jumping into the matter, what was your biggest challenge?
Okay. So I think the biggest challenge that I faced, or that we faced when we went in this remote format, was to keep it consistent. Like we were so used, or Service Rocket, I'm going to talk from my experience as a Rocketeer, right? We had our very own local processes and local traditions and local applications to onboard our employees. And when we started the conversation, even before the pandemic, to take this a more consistent approach and more consistent experience across borders, that was the first challenge. Like, how do we make it consistent, even though we are spread all over the world in different locations, and how making it consistent, but at the same time, we wanted to keep that local taste, local flavor, local color at each of the locations, right? And then 2020 happened, the pandemic started, so remote was the only way for us to do that. And in that area, remote made it actually a little bit easier for us to standardize that process. Mm-hmm. So we started to find ways not depending so much from people, from manual processes, but to try to bring all the systems that we had available back then, including Workplace in this case, and see how we can try to keep those things that we love, that we knew people love to have, but at the same time that were not effective, and try to remove those that were not effective in a remote environment, and that didn't allow us to keep the consistency and the experience that we want to provide. So I'll say the consistency was the challenge, right? That was the biggest for me, and the one that I identified.
Yeah. And I was there, and thanks so much for the work, because you were one of the founders of the Chile office, so you did a really good job and foundation from the things and processes that we have now. So, but from my perspective, I came from different companies, energy companies, medical companies, and medical labs. So going into this tech industry was at the beginning a new thing for me. So I had to learn also a lot of technologies. So before pandemic, we already have like Workplace in place, for example, up and running, which was amazing in terms of communication, scope, and approach to the people. It was really fast and easy to, bring someone in KL, in Kuala Lumpur, if I wanted to. But when COVID came, honestly, and I don't know if anyone in the HR community probably suffered the same, but I just panicked. I was like, it was so good that the way that we were providing that experience with people on site, doing it in our own style, going for lunch, giving an office tour, the welcome kit in person. So, just to think about ways to not compromise the culture, but doing the same virtually at the beginning was a bit terrifying for me as an HR, and I am being totally honest. So we learn as pandemic was moving forward. But I think, after a couple of months, also we started hiring people from other industries, which was refreshing, but also you needed to, make them familiar with workplace, with our systems. So I think now it works pretty well because, we need the support of the whole team. That's it. And when the whole team is involved, I think it worked.
Yeah. And also, okay, so jumping now into the meat of the presentation, right? And I see we have already some good number of attendees. If anybody wants to jump in at any time, feel free to ask any questions in the chat. There's a Q&A section at the end. But if you happen to have a question, you want us to spend some time to tackle down that question, it doesn't matter. Don't wait till the end of the presentation. Please feel free to send your question via the chat. So, okay, Sam, can you take over the presentation and now start with some data regarding onboarding?
I'm trying, for some reason I can't. There you go. Okay, so don't take this wrong way, but we wanted to start with some bad news, bad numbers, just for us to showcase how a poor onboarding looks like to the employees and also to the organization. So here you have some numbers. Maybe some of you will be familiar with this, but we want you to have the visibility and on how an onboarding can impact a company. So 88% of the organizations don't onboard well. This is a Gallup story. And, onboarding is basically the first impression. So, and also we have referrals, at least here in Service Rocket, referrals is a really powerful resource for us to bring talent on board. So every time that you refer something is because you are an ambassador and you are, believing and trusting in the company. So that makes onboarding not only a challenge, but it needs to be, really good to cost that first impression. So at the end, I feel employees should feel, comfortable, also confident about they can perform, confident about they have all the proper tools to perform as well, and also involved into the culture, which lead us into the next numbers. 58% of the organizations focus on onboarding on just paperwork, and this is really common in a lot of companies. So onboarding needs to be focused on people, on the new hires, and not on the process. The process is equally important for sure. All the documentations, we need to comply with everything that the local legislations are requesting for. But at the end, onboarding is about people, it's about connecting, it's about informing, it's about even retaining from day one. So this is something that make us reflect about our onboarding and if we need to maybe adjust it, especially now that it's virtual. 1 in 5 new hires are unlikely to recommend an employer, and this is after a poor onboarding experience. Again, this is related to point number 1, and again, first impressions are everything. I'm not saying that we can turn that over time, but onboarding is our main door to the company, to our culture, to the way we do things. So this is really important. You can see 1 in 5 new hires is quite a high number, And last, we have 25% average new hires productivity is within the first 30 days. So this is, can be pretty normal because usually a new hire is still, working in a learning curve, getting trained. But what we do here is we have regular check-ins weekly with the manager, which are really important. But also for new hires to have, it is recommended to have a 30, 60, and 90 days check-in. Again, this is just the first quarter to make sure, again, if they have the proper tools, if they feel confident about the job, to set expectations, which is really, really important from both sides. So yeah, you can have all these numbers and you may be related to this, but this is something good to have visibility because we know, where to focus our efforts.
Yeah, and as they say, as everybody says, like bad news first, but let's talk about good news too. Like, how
yes.
was that?
Bringing the goodness. So, in the goodness, if you have a really, really good onboarding experience, you will increase 82% in retention.
Sorry.
And again, this totally relates with the bad news that we were talking about. So if you want to increase retention, if we want to reduce turnover, and all these KPIs, employee satisfaction survey, it all starts with the onboarding. So it is really important. And bear in mind that onboarding is not just day one, and it's not just the orientation. That's pretty common in some companies that they just focus on onboarding on the orientation day. And that orientation session is just a part of the onboarding. So, keep that in mind. If you address a development in career planning during the onboarding, it will be most likely that, the employee will feel motivated 3.5 times more, engaged, committed, motivated. And also I think this is really important. One of the things that we do here at Service Rocket is we ask the hiring manager to be part of the offer letter extension in that call. Why? Because we want the candidate to know why we are, inviting him to work with us. We want him to know about the opportunities.
And not only part of the of the offering process as well, but they are part of the whole recruitment process, from the interviewing, the screening, the when we present an offer, but also the pre-onboarding part before the new hire is going to join the company, and also from day one all the way to 90 days. That was the onboarding process lasts for us. So our hiring managers are very committed to make the experience of new Rocketeers or new employees as successful as possible.
Yeah, and I find it really, really cool, to have the hiring manager talking to you about the opportunities, growth, because these are really common questions when, with new hires and candidates. They want to make sure about career growth. This is something that is expected to be offered by the company. And also, you need to do your part. But it is motivation since, pre-onboarding, since even joining the company. So that's why it is really important. Then 30% of the employees will feel more integrated into the company culture. And this is, company culture is everything. I even to say that it's, and according again to statistics, this is all a Gallup and LinkedIn as well. Company culture is one of the most powerful reasons for an employee to stay and to remain into a company. It has to do with everything: values, behaviors, all our beliefs, or all our credos. So it is really important for us to address those topics in the onboarding. Also make the employees and the new hires part of our vision. So when you share your vision, then their job will have a meaning. So here at Service Rocket, we do everything with a purpose. So this is really, really key. Okay. And last, 70% of new hires with exceptional onboardings will say that this is the best job. And that again, we are the main door. This is as simple as an obvious that first impressions count again. And we just want to provide a top employee experience, and it starts with the pre-onboarding. So here we have all the goodness. Well, we need to have a great onboarding. And speaking about the benefits to the company, we talk about also employees in company culture, but onboarding has also a direct impact, into revenue, into budget, into a lot of things. And sometimes we, as a company already inside the onboarding, we miss that side. But it is very expensive also to fill in positions, and also each company, in our case that we are a global organization, we struggle in each location with different things, so it is very expensive to fill in an open position. And also it is really expensive to have unmotivated employees, so this is part of retention, and turnover it's also really expensive. So organizations that have a really good onboarding program, so a 60% year-over-year improvement in revenue. Again, happy employees, we will have happy customers, and just good results. It is just a law of life. We all know about this.
Yeah, at the end, onboarding impacts in the long run too. It not only affects the morale of the new joiner, but also the people that already is part of the team. With there's not successful onboarding from somebody coming into the company, it's like as well, like what's the impact, or having this person to join the pace of that team is quite hard. And then if they leave, there's also other financial implications involved. The cost, the financial cost for the company to replace that person too. Right? So
yes, and also speaking about those expenses versus the invest on onboarding organization, you will have a return like sooner. If you invest, and here it says 78% of the organizations invest in good onboarding, that will pay off. You will see. And I'm not only talking about welcome kits, which are one really best practice, so the people can feel really into the culture, but also training, videos, good quality content material. So everything is, again, part of the experience. And at the end, it's an employee journey. And our purpose and our goal is for people to be happy at the workplace and at what they are doing. So again, invest in onboarding. And last, if you go back one slide, 64% of those companies saw positive gains. And not only we are talking about revenue, we're talking about KPIs that will already mention it, like turnover, retention, employee engagement. If you conduct an employee survey or a new satisfaction employee survey, you will see the results. So just make sure that you have those metrics in mind, because otherwise you can't measure the impact of your onboarding. So it's equally important to have those KPIs and those measures along with the process. Otherwise, you wouldn't have the visibility of what you need to do to improve. And onboarding is an ongoing process. So that is really, really important. So now we can move over to the next slide, and we're going to jump into some guidelines on how, now that we have hybrid onboarding, and this may be familiar with some people, but especially after COVID, I think we saw something, Luna, remember, I think it was Gallup as well, that before COVID, almost 50% of the companies used to do on-site onboarding. Again, it depends on the nature of the company. Maybe tech can have a lower number, but after pandemic, only 20% of the companies are doing on-site onboarding. This means that we are all moving into hybrid modes, or again, depends on your workplace.
Yeah.
So sorry, go.
Yeah. And well, our team is going to send some questions in the poll there. So if you can participate and answer the poll, that'll be great. And in the meantime, so what we're doing now, we put together with these design guidelines for effective hybrid onboarding, we have also had some tips on how we have tackled these guidelines or approached these guidelines with the different features that we found useful from Workplace by Meta, or from Meta, sorry. So what we're going to do now is going to go through each of these principles, and there are 5. There are only 5. We're going to try to share with you some of the experience. But now going back to the poll, the question was, has onboarding changed for the better since the pandemic? And 44% of the people say that yes. I'm quite surprised. Usually when we run this kind of in-house, people are feel happier in a remote environment. But 44% is quite a big number. And the answer no is 33, so it's not far away, not far behind, but unsure. It's very balanced, that this score, to be honest. Thanks for participating. And so going back to the presentation here now with the design guidelines, I'm going to start with principle number 1. And I'm not gonna go through the whole content of the slide to read each of the points. But what I'm gonna do for each point is I'm gonna share some of the examples that we at Service Rocket use, specifically with Workplace. Right? In this case, onboarding class. What we're trying to do with onboarding class is using the different options that Workplace offers for live streaming, and we try to combine the live stream options with the rooms options that we have. So the difference is when we're trying to build a good experience in a remote environment, a company like ours, that we have the challenge of dealing with time zone situations. We have offices very spread out in the world with 14 hours difference between each other. So sometimes, even though you have tools like Workplace, the live interaction is hard, like is pretty much impossible. And using Workplace, using the live stream has allowed us to have part of that live interaction for the people or for the teams or the team members that are not in the same time zone. They can come to the recording later and watch it in their own time zone and still feel part of that process of onboarding. Make new joiners feel welcome and react, comment, share their experience. Share their experiences and their knowledge via the comments, or sometimes reach out, even though when the person is not precisely available in the chat, but leave a comment there for in the future the new joiner can comment and read those interactions via the comments as well. And in the case of the rooms, what we're trying to emulate there is that same experience that what we had in an on-site environment, that you can go to somebody else's desk and say like, hey Sam, let's have a chat, or let's gather to, I don't know, a coffee table or coffee break. And since in a remote format, that dynamic's a little bit harder to do and to replicate via the chat groups. So we use the rooms to join these kind of conversations. When somebody receives a notification that, in this case, myself, have created a room, then people start to join, take a break a little while, and try to bring that experience to the digital environment. And time zone friendly schedule, I share a little bit about that. It's really hard for us to have everybody together at the same time, even though our teams have representatives pretty much in every country where we operate, and sometimes it's just going to be really hard for them to join live interaction. So we try to keep as many people as possible together, but those who are not possible to join, then we try to spread that experience as well. So if we have activity A for the East Coast location, East Coast time zone, then activity A will be replicated in the time zone for all folks in Australia. Right? We just have to separate it. And then mixed live and self-paced. Well, we talk about the live streaming, but there's another function in the Workplace that we use a lot for this self-paced kind of on-demand content, and is the learning models. And it's a tab that you can find in every group on Workplace. And what we put there is content related to what Service Rocket is as a business, how specific teams operate. We can add guides there. We have videos that our team had recorded to give a walkthrough of the dynamic of a team, or kind of a demo of a specific product, or how one of our benefits work. And then the new joiners can just watch that content when they consider appropriate, or if they watch it the first week, let's say, as part of the onboarding, they can come back to it anytime because the group will be there. So
yeah, I just want to say that what I like about this learning feature is that it's really scalable and also sustainable. Again, this is a really fast environment. So if you need to update anything regarding, you know, any content, you can do it, and it will remain. So people that is still, coming, new joiners, and also people that you want to re-onboard, which is also a really common trend now, people that you already have in the organization, I don't know, for 5, 10 or more years, you can re-onboard, and it's really good to have a refresh. So you can have all the material in there as a reference, so they can just come and go. And I really like this. And also, it is very important, for everyone, for managers, for HR, and basically, for the new hire itself, to make sure that they are really understanding and really getting all the proper information. So in the learning feature, if you create this learning path, which is really, also it's really pretty how it goes along the whole journey, you can click and mark if you already, did that activity, or read some document that you need to. So also it's really good for, it's a way of communication, a new communication between the area and the new hire, to see that you are really understanding the content. And yeah, that's really cool. It's live,
yeah.
real life interaction.
I have a question for our audience, and feel free to add your answer in the chat. Is that what is your preference? You like live interaction, like going live, streaming live, or are you the type of person that will better wait for the recording to be available and watching in their own time? Like, just let us know. Then, in the meantime, we're going to jump to point number 2, and here's about part of the experience of onboarding, right? And this is when Sam asked my experience in about what I preferred, or what was the challenge for us at Cybersocket in terms of setting up an onboarding remotely, is access to systems. That was one. As we have general systems inside a company that every single employee have, like an email account, for example, or access to the benefits platform or the payroll platform. So, but at the same time, every team had their own specific system, and that was a very hard challenge for us to identify what are those things that people need, and make sure that on the first day they come, and when somebody said like, hey, check this link, you'll find some information about it, they didn't have access. So that was one of the things that we really wanted to avoid to keep happening. And I don't know, Sam, if you have a little bit another insight from in regards to access to systems.
Yeah, this is what we do really good here. A really good job at Service Rocket is, again, we work with multidisciplinary areas. So we work with marketing for the content, but we also work really closely with IT. So, for us to make sure that everyone has access to the accounts and to the tools that they are gonna use, even, I don't know, 3 or a week before start date. So, this is a collaboration and a shared effort, which is really important, just to make sure, to work with the proper areas. And also, something that I like, and this is like a personal preference, I don't know anybody out there, but I like that you can have all the tools and all the resources for the new hire in just one single place. So in this case, the usual systems that we have is email, automation, a chatbot, a chat tool where you can, again, just communicate and foster that communication flow. Also an employee database tool, and all of this we had it in Workplace. So in Workplace you had access to, if you click or you're chatting with someone and you click just to the right side, you can see the org chart, the area, the department, location, email, cell phone. You can see everything. So again, it is really easy to have everything in the same place. So for us, works really good.
Yeah, talking about access, not only we're focusing on systems right now, but also access to information is important for an onboarding. And that was another challenge that I can share, like having different offices. That means having local legislations at each local documentation, local policies, And it was quite hard to also filter that information for us to make sure that if we had in a space on a wiki where everybody have access, that nobody, like how hard it was going to be for our new hires to find the information related to the specific location. So how we tackle that, first we identify what was the most relevant or most frequent asked questions to our team, and then we migrate all that information in articles in the knowledge library that we currently call Rocketeer Handbook, or Rocketeers. I repeat that word because that's how we call our employees. And in this handbook, we pretty much answer the most asked questions. If we talk about HR processes or people-related questions like, when do I get paid? How long does it take for me to receive my payslip? And where can I find information about the insurance company that we use? The company, do we have any contact that can help me with the claim, et cetera, et cetera. All that information, and also all the information like was Service Rocket brand promise, what are the company values, the leadership behaviors, a little bit about a letter from Rob, our founder, about was his vision, what was what has been his experiences since he started the company 20 years ago. That handbook actually became like a global manual, and we have filtered information in a way that if Sam in Santiago wants to find the benefits related to her location, she doesn't have to go through all content related to other locations, because that will just add a level of friction that we don't want. And also access to, we talk about access to systems, now we're talking about access to information, and in part of that access to information is about the workplace group. As you know, workplace is divided in groups, and there's 3 different types of groups in terms of security. You have the open groups, the closed ones, and the secret ones. And if somebody is joining to your team, and this is more to the hiring managers, if you're watching this, please pay attention and be mindful of this. It can be the experience also having to go to a system and not having access. Can happen in a platform like Workplace as well. There are groups that are closed, and if you don't have the access, you have not been added prior to joining, then you won't be able to have access to the content that is being shared there. So make sure that every new hire in your team have access to the information that you consider appropriate for them to have. If that includes secret groups, closed groups, make sure that you add them prior their first day, so they can have a very smooth flow of information and access to something that might be helpful for them in the early days.
And Luna, just moving on to the next slide, we have a question. If we have a recommendation for introducing new hires to the company on Workplace, when you have 20 plus new employees a week, over 20 employees a week. So I believe this is aligned with what you just were saying, to add this in the workplace groups. But do you have any other suggestions or anything that you want to share?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Do you have a recommendation for introducing new hires to the company on Workplace when you have over 20 employees a week, 20 new hires a week?
Oof. Well, my recommendation will be, so I'll be honest, I'll talk straight here. We haven't had that experience of 20. We had 15, 17 before, which is 15
not last time,
which is not very far. But my recommendation will be use the learning tab, the learning feature from Workplace. Set up a strategy. What is that information that you consider appropriate for this group of people to have when they join? And I'll say, just make sure that they go to that Learn platform. Pin, post important in that group. Create a group dedicated for onboarding, and once they join the company, make sure that everybody have access. And if you don't have admin access to your Workplace instance, you can work that out with the admins, with those who have the admin access. But make sure to follow up. What are the topics, or what are the modules that everybody is going through? What my recommendation will be usually is, or how I approach onboarding for my team is, we try to give them some time before we try to get them up and running with the pace of the team in regards to performance or the business job. And I try to give them 1 week, 2 weeks where they can fully absorb what the company is about, what the team does, and for them to get all the information that they can to understand the context where they are now. That helped, in my opinion, to make onboarding process smoother and not to overwhelm people in the very early days when they have to deal between to be productive and also understand where they're standing, right? And that's how I'll divide, how I'll organize the content. And if they are coming, all of them are coming for the same team, that create two models, different models. The first one related to the information that you consider appropriate for them to have in the very early days, and then the second on the next model is focus on the one that is going to help them to be productive, to make an impact in their team, and to help your business scales, and for them to feel also that they're earning early wins as well.
Yeah. And I think those are really good in terms of content and in terms of introducing, you know, that amount of new hires into workplace. I can share a bit of things that we do here, which I think are really effective. But again, you know, if we need to have all the team supporting collaboration. So, you know, everyone at the end is an ambassador and is part of the company culture. So what we do is first we add the new hires into the workplace. And this is something really, I don't know, several rocket style, but what we do is we actually announce this first in the office location chat. So we put like a really quick message of welcoming the new hires and just saying their name, their position, and the team they are joining for. And this is really good because, you know, Rocketeers in here got crazy with new hires, so they started just sending gifts and welcoming messages, and that is really powerful for the new joiners, so they feel immediately into the culture. That's number one. Number two, because again, I think the most that we have is 16 or 17 new hires, so we also make sure to announce these new hires in our open forums, meaning all hands, local all hands, company updates and company all hands as well. So we announce also the new hires in each location. Sometimes some hobbies, because hobbies, you know, can relate and resonate to other people. So at the same time, we are creating a bond. And also our CEO makes this weekly update, which is really cool because you can see like a weekly wrap up of everything that is going on. And in that update, he also talk about the new hires within that week. Yep. So this may seem a lot, but I think it's really cool because, you know, we all need, this is a challenge to have all locations all over. So this way you make sure just to everyone be in the same page in regards of new people.
Yeah. There's one more question coming to the chat. I'll try to leave that for the questions section. Sorry, Samantha, because we have 2 more points and we're running a little bit out of time. So
let's go.
Going back to the principle number 3, and the recommendation or the tips here that we can share is schedule regular live social times. We talk a little bit about live streaming, how that impacted or helped us to provide or deliver a good experience on onboarding, remote onboarding, but also recreate spontaneous office time. What we do here is what we talk a little bit about with the rooms, how we bring that social part of being in the same space, physical space. And for that, we also enable or empower people in the team, or just give the opportunities, open space, like everybody can create a group on Workplace. Everybody can create a chat group or any topic, right? Workplace for us doesn't need to be only about the business. It's also about building culture, building community, finding those group of people that with the ones we share interests, like any social interest. And we have some examples in the company. We have groups where people join to do board games, tournaments, to talk about plants, how they keep the plants alive. And I'm a big advocate of that group. Helped me a lot to keep this guy alive. And other about sports and wellness, well-being, and music, art. I'm an illustrator as well. Yeah, the ones with the plans. And also to recreate those spontaneous office times. One of the challenges that we had when we went remote is that a big part of our traditions when somebody joined as an onboarding was to get the team together, go out for lunch, break the ice, get everybody to know each other, get the new hire to present themselves in a non-professional environment or something more casual where they can feel probably more comfortable in the very first day or the very first week. And with the remote format, that was a challenge to achieve. It was hard to coordinate this kind of how we're going to order. We are all spread out, and with people also moving out of their city home back to their family home, those who came from outside the city, was also a challenge. What we did is, again, we went to Workplace. We find a way to provide meal vouchers using these online delivery platforms that we already know, that we all use, and distribute these vouchers via Workplace, work chat, and it was not the same, but it was something that we were able to deliver or to bring back to the remote environment and still kind of have that connection virtually and not miss those traditions. So that's number one. And moving on to number 4 is about planning, right? Planning is a big part for us in delivering, and should be a big part for your team as well in delivering an outstanding remote onboarding. It's very helpful for somebody to join a new company, and it has been very helpful for us as well, seeing how smooth the process goes when somebody comes and they already have some plan to follow in their calendar, and to know that they need to meet with these specific people to understand these specific topics, and that those meetings, key people for the business, key people for their onboarding journey, and for them to not having to go through that process of understanding where they can find that information, and us as the leaders, us as the ones created that journey, also the hiring managers as the owner of the experience for their team, making that plan has been a very successful part of people even understanding what our company does, for example, right? But that also planning allows people not to overlap events on their calendar, overlap meetings. Sometimes, again, going back to the time zone situation, sometimes because I'm new in the company, I forgot to keep my calendar up to date, or I simply just don't know what's the culture here, or what's the dynamic. Suddenly get a meeting request from somebody in Australia, and it's at 6 in the morning. So no, it's going to be really hard. That's something that could have happened, could have been avoided if us and the hiring managers prepared this plan for them. So hiring manager specifically, they know what they need their teammates to know or to learn in the very first weeks of onboarding. Then also create spaces where they can, spaces or groups or environments inside the systems, right, where they can take a break of only talking about performance. So wellness is very important for us. We have a dedicated group for that, where people share what their wellness goals, wellness journey is. And also another thing that we encourage, and that should be part of the planning or the learning path for new joiners when they join, is understanding that because we're in the remote environment, sometimes it's really hard for people who's not in your time zone or that is not familiar with your dynamic of work, to just try to find you in the chat, send a message, and not realizing that probably is not your office hours. And for us, what we try to do is just keeping them mindful that they can set up these times as well. For example, comparing it to the on-site premises or on-site dynamic. If I go to the office and I don't see Samantha sitting on her desk, it's like I'm okay, she's not here. Like I can find help somewhere else. I'm not gonna wait for her to come back. But in a remote environment, it's really hard to tell when somebody's available, when somebody's not available. And also the live and on-demand onboarding and well-being content. We have also dedicated group where we can where we share tips with these new hires in regards of the stress how stressful can be for them to change to a new environment, to a new company, to a new culture, and having all this pressure about, I need to learn the systems, I need to learn what my team does, I need to learn 300 names from people that I probably won't talk in the near future. So there's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of stress that can happen. For some people, that's exciting. For some other people, it's stressful because they put a lot of pressure, right? They want to make sure to create a great impression. So it can be overwhelming, right? And we know that we have a group where we have live and on-demand content as well, and where we share content with mind coaches, wellness, and well-being experts that people in the onboarding process can also relate to, or can also go to, for them to get some tips about how to ride those waves of stress or situations.
Okay, and we have a last one.
Yeah, we have a last one here, and it's about it's point number 5, and it's about recognition. Part of the onboarding is not only about planning, it's not only about access to systems, access to information, but it's also about making sure that your new hires feel appreciated and feel as they're making an impact. That's very important for us. And also for them to understand how the recognition works in the company. So we have a fully dedicated kudos group where again, you got to be sure that they have access to it. You got to make sure that they are added prior to their first day, and also make sure that you recognize them when they're achieving their milestones that we plan for them. That those small wins make a big impact, make them feel make them feel that they are fitting in the place, that they are the right person for the right job, and the morale and the momentum that they're going to get in terms of performance, adoption, and integration will be even more mindful what you think with these ones. I don't know, Sam, you asked me to add this screenshot here. Can you share a little bit about this?
Yeah, it is, pretty rewarding to see people within their first couple of months just achieving. It is rewarding, anytime, but also, new people that they are feeling really happy with what they are doing. Again, everything is employee experience. So, also complementing a bit of what you just said, this is also a way to get them into the culture, because they are part of our values, they are part of our business, our vision, our behaviors. So at the end, if we are recognizing someone, is because they are living and breathing our values. So that is a really important thing. So I wanted to move on, since we have already just 5 minutes left, to answer some questions. We have a question in the chat of can you see what the new employee has completed in the learning tab while they are working on the onboarding material? I believe it's yes, right, Luna?
Yes, you can. I mean, it depends on the level of access that you have on the workplace. If you are an admin, definitely you can get a report. If you don't have admin access, you can definitely reach out to your IT team or to whoever in your company have access, and just request a report from the specific group. It's as easy as sending them the link, and they'll find out in the admin panel, right? So I hope I answered your question, Samantha, in the chat. And so we have about 3-4 minutes before we go. We want to just leave here our contact information. There's a lot more content that we're preparing regarding to workplace, regarding to all the things that Service Rocket does in terms of software adoption. And make sure to follow us on LinkedIn to know the upcoming webinars. Make sure to follow us on Instagram to learn more about Service Rocket culture, we're going to be sharing some interesting profiles there about people who join, experiences from our Rocketeers. And also, if you want to know what Service Rocket does, please make sure to log into servicerocket.com. Drop us a message. We'll be more than happy to learn or to help you in any challenge that you have regarding onboarding or software adoption, or if you want to know more about our workplace environment or workplace offerings, that would be great to know as well.
We have one more question. How do you strike the balance between including new employees in everything and giving them their space to adjust on their own? We don't want to overwhelm them. And I think this was related on the slide that you were talking about. You know, we want the new hires to get on board fast with the culture, with the activities and with the tasks. But at the end, you know, by keeping that balance, we need to set boundaries and also set expectations. We don't want this new junior to have a lot of work within, you know, again, the first week. And remember that we talk about productivity within the first 3 months. So one of the, you know, to strike that balance is to have regular check-ins. Make sure that you check in with them on a weekly basis, just to see, again, if they are feeling comfortable, if they are doing well, if they need anything else, any guidance on planning their activities. Also to have the 30, 60 and 90 days checking, you know, which is really good to see and to get the feedback from the new hire, and also, you know, to provide feedback yourself. And something that we do here at Service Rocket, we you know, exhort the people to use the workplace updates and status. So, you know, if you need to focus on something or really need to work and you're not going to be available, just put your do not disturb. If you're having a break, just put it, because again, in a remote environment, this is the only way that we have visibility that you're going to be doing something. So, you know, don't be afraid to use those and you know, try to set expectations with the new hire in terms of deadlines, deliverables.
Yeah, and also just to add that to your answer, like when we talk about planning, I think the planning of your onboarding experience is very important to avoid that overwhelming. Like I share a little bit about my experience with my team, with the team I belong to, Service Rocket. I think like every single hiring managers know what's the dynamic of their own team. So just think about that, like plan ahead. I'll say if you have a plan of 4 weeks in advance, like what are the things that you want your new employee to take over and to learn, I think that will be very helpful. If you don't have, even if you have WordPress or not, that you can do that on the calendar, you can do that on a spreadsheet, you can do that on a Google Doc, whatever it works for you. You don't, these experiences are not like, we are lucky enough that our company adopted technology like WordPress, but you can do this with the systems and resources that you have available. So it's only about how creative you can get. Obviously, the better resources that you have, the better experience that you will provide. But
correct.
With planning, just planning. Okay, that's it for us. Before we leave, remember, onboarding is a consistent work in progress. Not because your onboarding is great now means that it's going to remain great every time. So keep in mind, something to keep revising, keep talking to your new hires, send surveys, analyze them, process them, and get feedback every single time you can. That will be very helpful.
Feedback is a gift. So
yeah, feedback is a gift. Okay, we'll leave you now. Thank you, Samantha Storga, for joining us.
Luna.
It has been a pleasure. Keep an eye on our LinkedIn to learn more about upcoming webinars, and we'll love to see you in the near future.
And thanks everyone for your questions and for sharing information. Let us know if you want to know more.
Bye, everybody.
Adios, adios, ciao.